So.
Just like a grounding. We just want to do an exercise in the beginning to kind of bring us all together, make everybody feel safe when people pop up. So I don't know if there's a volunteer for that. Or I can do it too.
Like a grounding. We just want to do an exercise in the beginning.
There's me.
Bring us all together.
Yes. Awesome. So why don't I turn it over to you, Laura, for that?
Okay.
I think that would be great. And then sounds wonderful. So let me just make sure that everything is functioning properly. Technology is our friend.
Isn't it now?
It sure is. I am excited to be here and to be. Okay, awesome. It's working. I just needed to make sure that we're streaming and we're live. All right, wonderful. I am so excited to be here tonight. So why don't we kick it off? All right. Are we all ready?
I'm ready.
Do it.
All right. Okay, wonderful. So welcome to the Journey to Self. Tonight, it is our masterclass series where we're going to talk about our life journeys and give you the spiritual and practical tools for your individual transformation. And that is what we're all here for. It's because we've all gone through this transformation and we know that we're all on this journey together. Today, we are going to discuss the secrets behind your fears and how they're holding you back. What a big topic we have to unpack tonight. And as you know, this is the place where we like to share extraordinary stories of everyday people. And we invite you in our conversation and free coaching. And that is how Conversations with Vicky was born. It is because we wanted to celebrate and to really shine a light on all of these extraordinary transformation journeys that we've all been on. So before we dive in, let me tell you a little bit about the co-hosts and the honor that I have to share tonight's virtual stage with these fine women. So Laura is a transformational coach and a transformational business coach, and we're going to get to learn what that actually means later on this evening. Chrissy is a transformational relationship coach. We all need one of those. I know that. Chelsea is a dream analysis coach and self-discovery mentor. I know my girls are so excited every time they hear your name. They're like, what is I dream? And what does that mean? And Chelsea is the woman who helps us unpack all that. And good evening. I'm Vicky, and I'm a life coach helping you transform your personal and professional life so that you can live authentically and, most importantly, happily. All right. So let's talk about what you can anticipate this evening. So for the first 45 minutes, we're going to do a masterclass for you, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So please make sure to stick around for the entirety of the session, and we welcome your questions towards the end. But let's say if you have a comment, if you have any questions or something arises, absolutely put it into chat, whether you're watching this on Zoom or on the YouTube channel. Please participate. Give us your questions, give us your feedback, give us your comments. That's what we're here for, because we want to make sure that we're in service of you and that we are responding to what your needs are. And lastly, we are so excited to offer one lucky winner a free coaching session with the coach of your choice. All you have to do is you just have to give us your email address in the chat, whether you're again watching it on Zoom or if you're watching it on the YouTube live, just submit your email. We're going to reach out to you. And then, based on the conversation tonight, you will have the opportunity to get coached by one of these fine young women. So before we begin, I'm going to turn it over to Laura, who is going to walk us through a very brief but a really important grounding exercise so that we're all here, present, and together. Laura, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Vicky. Thank you. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us, whether you're here live or watching this watching a replay. It's really important to all of us that we feel safe and connected in this space. So we want to start by doing a brief grounding exercise. So whether you're sitting down or lying down, just make sure that you're comfortable. We're going to close our eyes. And if you're sitting, just put your feet on the ground so that they're touching the floor, and bring your hands to your side. With your eyes closed, just bring your breath into your awareness and relax your shoulders. Relax your jaw. And slowly breathe in through the nose. Feel your belly expand in the low belly. And exhale through the mouth. Another breath in through the nose. Feel your belly expand. And exhale. Now we're going to breathe a little slower, but visualize from the bottom of your feet energy strands going down into the earth. So they're going down through the floor, down through the dirt and the ground, the rocks, through nutrient-rich soil, and wrapping around the core of the earth. Continue to breathe in through your nose and slow your breath. As you're feeling your belly expand on the inhale. And take this next exhale long and slow. And visualize that energy from the core of the earth coming up through those energy strands, back into the bottom of the feet, and back into your body. From the ankles to the knees, filling up to the hips, the shoulders, all the way to the top of the head. Continue your breath, slow and even. As we open the sacred space for each of us to connect as a consciousness, just imagine a light surrounding you and connecting all of our energy fields. And allow yourself to feel that energy to continue to fill your body as it grounds you down into the earth. As we become connected and feel safe in this sacred space, as we get to know each other and connect with each other and deepen our relationships with not only each other, but ourselves as well. Take one more breath in through the nose. Feel your belly expand and let out a big exhale. With your eyes closed, just shake out your fingers. We're going to let that energy out through the fingertips, anything we're not needing today. And gently open your eyes. And we can get started now.
That was great, Laura.
Thank you.
Love it.
Much needed after the day I think we're all having.
I know I rushed.
Right.
I rushed in here too, you guys. It wasn't just you. I just couldn't verbalize yet. What? Yeah. So funny, Angelique. Yeah. So we'll get back to Angelique. I'm really glad that you're here today. So I wanted to get started with some of my experience with fear as we move through each of our journeys a little bit. We'll tell stories. We will talk about some of the things we've done to overcome. Each of us has a different experience, which is pretty amazing because we all have a different perspective from those experiences. And so I'd like to talk about my story with fear. I mean, it's one of those things that just humbles you looking back at it, because I never thought myself to be someone who was a fearful person or to be afraid of anything in life. In fact, when I told one of my old bosses that I was scared of something, he said, "I didn't think you were scared of anything," you know? And then I found myself going through PTSD, post-traumatic stress, disorder, and just afraid of everything in life. And it's because bad experiences that I had experienced had taught me, or taught my brain anyway, that I was in danger. And so I, for years, was trying to get through the post-traumatic stress. And that was probably the biggest challenge I've ever had in my life, was to not necessarily face that, but to know what it is and know how to heal it, because I hadn't come into contact with anybody or, known anybody to help me. So it took a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort and a lot of soul searching until I found some solutions. But with fear, a lot of it, in my experience, came down to programming from my own brain that had showed me that there was a danger. Now, it wasn't a tiger chasing me, and it wasn't a real threat that I would call a real threat. So there are the real threats in life that you need to make sure you're in a safe space if that's the case. But in my case, there wasn't always a real threat. It was a thought that would cause an emotional spiral. And then before I knew I was in it, I had to, days would pass and I couldn't leave the house. I was just comatose and like petrified. And that lasted for years. But I was always trying to figure out how to get around it. And, obviously I did learn, and luckily I did, because I wouldn't be here today. And, from my journey, I do want to share some of the things that I did to overcome the fear. But what's most important is for everybody to know that your experience is real, not that the experience of fear is real. Now, what might be triggering the fear may not be real. So that's the most important thing that I want to say, is that I don't want to say that it's not an important part of your life that you're experiencing, but it is something that you can overcome, just like I did. But fast forwarding a few years, looking back and what I've learned now, I've realized that we live in thought created realities. Our entire reality around us is thought created. And I teach principles-based coaching, is kind of like transformational coaching. And one of the main principles in that is that we are always experiencing our thoughts. We're always experiencing our thought. I'm always in some kind of state of mind. We're always in a state of mind. Now, whether or not we're aware of the state of mind that we're in is where the PowerPoint comes, because if you can be aware of what state of mind you're in, then that means your consciousness can observe where you're at. But if we're always experiencing thought and not knowing which state of mind we're in, then we're literally, the best word I can, or the best term I could come up with, is a slave to our thoughts. And I teach a lot about thought, but I think I just want to end this part on saying that fear is a real experience, but the thoughts that we have determine the emotions that we experience. So that's just really important. I just want to highlight that, because when we're in that state of mind of a fearful thought, then that's what the byproduct is the fearful emotion and then the fearful experience. With PTSD, it goes a little bit deeper because there's a lot of conditioning there, but you are not your conditioning. You are not a fearful person, and you are not fear. None of us are those things. We're much greater and much deeper than that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chrissy now to talk about one of her experiences, or what she wants to share with us, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. This isn't even something it wasn't one of my things I was gonna plan on sharing, but I kind of feel called to after that, because I love what you said about the thoughts and how that can create things. So for me, I've had a lot of toxic relationships, a lot of struggling with relationships. I had abandonment issues and a fear that everybody was going to leave me and that I was going to end up alone. And because of that, I put off a lot of needy energy. I suffered from anxious attachment disorder, which I probably don't have time to go into that right now. I do have YouTube videos on it. But it basically is just, we have attachment issues that stem from our childhood, and we form these attachments based on, how our caregivers were with us. And so anxious attachment is basically, it's a lot of codependency. It's a lot of people pleasing ish, things. You do a lot of people pleasing stuff because you have this fear that everybody's going to leave you. And so I had this fear that everybody was going to leave me. I was going to end up alone. So what ended up happening was that is basically what happened. It was a reflection of what I was feeling on the inside, and so I would react in ways. And this is where I didn't even know I had these issues. Like, I didn't know that I had an issue. I just thought I meant really bad guys. I just thought that I meant I'm like, I don't know what's wrong, but I keep meeting these people and everything's wrong with them and I'm perfect. Like, not perfect, but I had this thought in my head, like, I'm this good person who I'm just gonna, I'm gonna give them everything they want. And I don't know why they just are so bad. And I finally had to realize that everything I was seeing was just a reflection of what I was thinking and what my thoughts were. And so because I had this fear that this was going to happen, so therefore it happened. So I had to do a lot of work around this. I'm still healing it. Like, I've said before, I think I don't date yet because I'm still healing it. I'm still learning to overcome those fears. At this point, I think I still have a fear. Like, I have a fear of even getting back out there and doing it because I'm afraid of the turmoil I'm going to feel when it happens. Because for somebody who suffers from anxious attachment, I will touch on it a little bit. When you have a breakup, it's not like a normal breakup. It's not like, okay, you have the normal sad feelings and you move on. You feel like your whole life's falling apart. Like, it is literally childhood repeating itself. And not, a lot of it stems from inconsistent parenting, just because you never know if someone's going to be there for you or not. And so for me, it was just, it's literally like your whole life is falling apart. And it sounds crazy. Some people are like, well, it's just a breakup. Everyone goes through it, but you don't know how to regulate the emotions. You don't know how to deal with it all because you've just never been taught, or you never learned that as a child. So that's a fear that I've had. It's probably still something that I'm still overcoming, honestly. It's why I don't date. It's why I do a lot of meditating. It's why I do a lot of the inside work still until I'm ready to get back out there. But yeah, so that's just a little bit about my journey. It's because it wasn't something I was even going to talk about. It just, I felt called to after what Laura said about the thoughts and all of that stuff, because that is something that I think I created a lot of it. Just by my own thoughts. Like, I had the thought that people were going to leave me, so therefore everyone left. So I think that's where I'll leave this segment anyway, and I will turn it over to Chelsea to kick her thing off.
I love the regulating fear topic. So for me, just taking it to a different perspective with fear, and how I was handling it throughout my life. I grew up very quiet and shy and intimidated. I've always introvert. So like for me, fear was kind of like an everyday thing, especially when it came to like work or maybe hobbies, things that I was giving myself attention for always gave me more fear. So today in my life, I am an author. I do dream analysis, and I'm kind of like speaking my truth all day long and shedding light on all the awkward parts of my journey, which is like the opposite of that. So how I came about that was like its own progression, because, I always was told, like, fake it till you make it type of thing. Don't show you're afraid, mask how you're feeling and pretend to be something else. But at the end of the day, I was a scared little girl, basically. And that was kind of part of my inner child, or what I am at the core. Not that I'm always afraid, but it was something that was always there. and I had to embrace it in different parts of my life. And, it came in good and bad. I wasn't always winning, but the fails do provide a lot of like lessons. So it's the idea that you take your losses when you're working with fear or trying to evolve into fear. So like I always take everything as an evolution. It doesn't show end results right away, but that's okay, because we learn so much when we're embracing it in its own way, if that be in creative works, maybe public speaking, relationships, and opening up more. We have our different outlets where fear can embrace, be involved. So for me, I write a lot about deep aspects of humanity and the subconsciousness, and I try to get to the root parts. So for me, of course, I am my own platform of schooling. So I took my own fears and my own insecurities, which were a lot, it was a handful of things. And it took maybe about 1.5 years, but I really dug deep into them. And I try to give myself this third eye perspective on, I'm not necessarily my fears. They don't represent who I am as an identity. They're part of the evolution. And I know that the end result, whatever that may look like at the time, I wasn't sure, but it would be beautiful. And at the end of the day, it is. So I think with fear, it's a beautiful thing, because there's so much more potential underneath fear. We just really have to get into it. So for me, every time I find I'm afraid, because I'm a Taurus, so I can be stubborn and like, to stick to what I know. And fear is a big one, a little bit. And it's been the best thing I've ever explored and exposed, not just to myself, but even to the public. So it kind of makes it double whammy of fear a tad bit, but it is its own journey, and every emotion is its own journey. So when it comes to fear, I love fear and I love sadness. I think they show a lot of good things. And that's it on my spiel on that. It's a little different take.
Thank you for that, Chelsea. That was wonderful. And I have to say, I'm kind of glad that I'm going last, because I got to hear your stories. And what I want to tell you is that I've experienced every one of your fears, and I've had every single one of your fears. I was afraid of abandonment because, my parents got divorced and my father wasn't in my life. And so, Chrissy, as you spoke, that's what I expected. It's what I thought was normal. I was a shy little girl, and I didn't ever really speak my truth. In fact, I allowed everybody to define me and my truth. And that affected me professionally and personally. And, it held me back from getting the promotions that I knew I deserved and earned inside. But, the fear I'm going to talk about today is a physical fear, because I know that there are people who undergo physical trauma too. And so I'm going to talk about an incident that occurred that really inspired everything that is now happening in my life. And so I'll tell you a quick story. So in December of 2022, a little bit over a half a year ago, I came home. I work in New York City. I took the subway home, and it was 7:00 at night. I stepped out and I went for a walk in the park. I live in a very safe town. And while I was on my walk, it wasn't late, I was assaulted. I was robbed and assaulted. And the way that the assault occurred is there was one young man who held me by the back of my back, and on my back and on my hair. And the other one ripped my purse off and grabbed the phone out of my hand. And then they took me and they threw me into the ground, into the pavement. And that, resulted in broken teeth. I have a scar now. I had to go to the emergency room. When I was in the emergency room, they discovered that I had blood in my brain. And it was like one of those moments in my life that it doesn't define me, but it was a defining moment for sure. You know, and I'll talk about the experience and how it changed me, but I'm full of gratitude to be here, to be alive, to be well, to be where I am. But I'd never suffered any kind of physical trauma before, and I know that there are so many people who do. And I never really understood it, but there was so much fear in my body, so much fear. Like it would be daylight and I would be afraid to go outside unless I was with my dog. I felt really safe with my dog for some reason. Like I felt like he was there to protect me. When I would go to sleep at night, I could feel their hands on me and them holding me in my back. And I would wake up with that sensation in my body. And, you know, I remember it would get dark. And as soon as I would see the sunset, I just say to myself, you're okay. You're going to be okay. But the thing is, I would also recognize when I wasn't okay. And I would say, okay, there's fear in my body. There's fear in me getting home safely. But right now, I'm safe. Right now, I'm safe. And, you know, I'd never experienced physical trauma like that before. And it took a lot of inner work for me to come through this. And I did come through this on the other side. And I'll talk about that and the journey there. But, you know, I really loved what you said, Chelsea, because you said in fear, through fear, there could be good to it too, right? And I wouldn't be here right now had that not occurred to me, had that not happened to me. So there was purpose to it, I guess. So that's my story.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for creating a safe space to share it, right? Like it's a hard moment to relive and to remember. And I honestly would rather forget it, but you know, I'm here because of it.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And you know that it reminded me that the brain doesn't know the difference between real and not real. It just doesn't know. It doesn't know. So a threat is a threat. And that can be the hardest part when you're trying to differentiate when it's like fight or flight from stress or fight or flight from like a real situation, especially when there's trauma involved like that. And, you know, for me, I kind of want to connect this to a couple things because I also had toxic relationships. Man, oh man, oh man. I am so grateful for those people now because like the same thing. If I didn't, I was just saying, you know, it felt like I was a seed and I knew that there was like a sunflower seed. I knew there was a deeper part of me, but I could never reach it. I could never get to it. And then the relationship that I went into that was so toxic and traumatic, it ended up breaking the shell. And from that, I grew. So had I not had that relationship, I wouldn't be here either. I would have never had the situations to overcome. And, you know, the crazy thing about the relationship that I was in that was pretty toxic is right after that one, I entered another one, like back to back. And from that, I got even more fearful of relationships. And then, you know, I was like, I'm just never going to do, I'm just okay being single. I'm good, you know? And then I realized that it was the fear that helped me stop the cycle. The fear had a purpose. The fear stopped the cycle because I just never wanted to date again. I was fine being single. I was happy being single. And then I met Robert and I was like, no, this is not happening. No. no. And that went on for like 2 years. But the fear it can show up in every way in life, every area of life, right? So business, relationships, just expanding ourselves. We always come to like the edges of who we are, and we can go deeper or we can go wider. And I did use fear as an understanding of where I was at on my edges. After that, I was like, okay, I'm pushing to the boundaries of who I am. And this dense energy of fear, I can use it to expand myself. And that's just fear and like, the small, the things that we're afraid to do, like when we were terrified to come and do lives, like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I'm so worried. Or like when we recorded our first video, like it's there, but you're always expanding your boundaries. But it really does have a purpose in every area. Now it might not make sense. I didn't know that fear was pushing me out of a toxic relationship cycle and protecting me, and then also getting me into a good, healthy relationship. But that's exactly what it did. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Is that it always has a purpose, even if we don't know what it is for, a while.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got to go after Vicky, Laura, because I don't know if I could have talked, honestly, like after Vicky. I was literally like, I still don't even know. Like, I'm like crying. I'm like, I mean, I just have to, I have to touch on that, Vicky, because I have to, like, I'm going to cry. I'm like, for anybody watching, I'm a crier. I cry all the time. Just ignore it. Like, just see it and move on. But the fact that you were so vulnerable just now, the fact that you just shared that here on this live masterclass that we're doing, is something I didn't know. You know what I mean? And you're the bravery that showed. I just have to commend you, because like that was just whew, gosh, sorry. Like that was just very brave of you to be so vulnerable. I think vulnerability is a strength, and I think people need to see people be vulnerable, especially when we're coaches and we're mentoring other people. They need to see the good and the bad. You know what I mean? Like not bad, but like they need to see the ups and the downs. They need to see that, just because we're here to help people and we're trying to mentor other people and coach other people, we're still having our own struggles too. And so I think that was just so brave of you.
Thank you, Chrissy.
I'm going to just turn it up. I'm going to talk.
And what I want to say, like, what I want to say is that, it's not something I really like to talk about, but I think that when you do it in service of others, I think it's important. The other thing is, the reason that we're here is because we've walked through very difficult shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what makes us, like, I think our superpower is our pain. I genuinely believe that. I had the most profound conversation with somebody at work where, again, I almost came to tears. And, I was talking to this individual and we were sharing, and I shared kind of like my struggles professionally before I got to where I got to. And, this person looked at me and we were both in tears and just thanked me and said, thank you. Because sometimes you feel like you are struggling all by yourself, and it's nice to know that someone else walked through those same shoes. And so our vulnerability and authenticity gives others the permission to be honest, to be open, to be themselves, and to also find the path towards their own journey and their own transformation. All we can do is just shine a light on, what is possible. And, the other thing that I also wanted to add is, when that happened to me, I started taking self-defense, and maybe Laura, you can talk a little bit about self-defense, because we kind of connected on that. I started taking self-defense classes. And when I was in that self-defense class, I met a woman a young lady who was sexually assaulted, physically assaulted, and that is why she was in the self-defense class. And I was able to be there for her as her emotional support as she was healing her physical and emotional trauma. And so, again, you go back to purpose. I was there for a reason. I mean, I was horrible at self-defense, trust me. But I was there for her so that she could at least share the trauma that was living in her body, and we could connect on that. So
yeah, that's amazing. I'm gonna just turn it over to Chelsea on this one. I'll share something on the next round here, but that's really all I just wanted to really talk about what you had said and a little bit. And I think what you just said is perfect. Vulnerability is a strength. I believe vulnerability is a strength, and society teaches us that we can't be vulnerable and we have to hide our feelings and we can't let people know. And so the fact that you were so vulnerable was something that had to be so painful for you. Again, that's obviously not something I planned on sharing because I didn't know this story, but it's something I had to talk about. So, but we'll turn it over to Chelsea and let her go now.
No, you guys are fine. I was just listening. I think maybe Laura has the next question or exploration.
You're freezing on us, or you're freezing
Not
on
to
me.
just
Yeah,
lean away from
you're
that.
freezing
I
on me
was
too.
genuinely listening. Oh, am I? Okay, my internet got a little unstable as a warning sign. No, I was saying I'm fine. I was just listening to what you guys were saying. I don't want to add any more to that because I know it's a whole other conversation too. So I wanted to see what Laura maybe had as the next question or kind of moving.
Next thing to share or whatever.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because we talked about today between the four of us on a messenger about the differences between coaching and therapy and trauma and shadow work. And that's why I wanted to say that's why I love why Angelique is here, because she knows all about shadow work. And we had a really good conversation about the collective shadows and all this stuff. So eventually, hopefully, we'll get to meet you in person, Angelique. But so, there is that real experience of trauma and how, I went through that. I literally could feel the energy going through my body. And I was telling the therapist that, and she's like, oh, that's interesting. She had no idea. She was like 10 years younger than me. I swear she just came out of, I don't even know. But she didn't know. And I didn't know what it was. And I could just feel it. And, luckily I ran into like Peter Levine, who helped me understand that we're biological. And so when there's real fear in your body or your energy system, fear holds itself in your muscles. And so that's why when I started getting active with martial arts and yoga, and actually hypnotherapy, those are the primary things aside from meditation that essentially healed my post-traumatic stress disorder and my trauma. But I was able to release the fear. So I never want to say that, I never want anybody to be under the impression that fear cannot be a real experience. I ended up with PTSD without going to war. I couldn't handle, my energy system couldn't handle all of the processing that I needed to do when I had all of these things happen to me at once. And I couldn't ground myself. I couldn't process. So grounding is another really important thing when it comes to processing traumatic energy. But aside from that, there's the trauma fear stuff where you can go to therapy for, or tune into yoga, or, hopefully therapists are better than they used to be when it comes to trauma, more trauma-informed therapists. But then there's the proper use of fear, because, everything that we experience emotionally is a thought. So there's the proper use of thought also. We often can beat ourselves up and stress ourselves out and replay things in our minds. That's a train of thought, and we could use thought improperly by bashing ourselves and focusing on things that scared the crap out of us. Well, when we do that, a little secret about fear is when you focus on fear, it makes that grow. Anything you focus on grows. So, so that would be an improper use of fear. But the proper use of fear, proper use of thought would be to create from thought, and to push through the boundaries of thought and explore it in a way that's more expansive. But if you don't use fear properly as I wonder what's on the other side of this. I wonder where this is taking me. I wonder what I can learn from this. I wonder if I could find the courage to push through and see what's on the other side of this as an adventure. That is proper use of fear, because otherwise we stop living, we stop experiencing, we stop exploring, and our spirit tends to die. Like we tend to just get dull as a bright light in the world. And, we don't have to take any thoughts seriously. I talk to people about the thought created world all the time, their thought created universe that they're living in. And the biggest thing that I find is we all take thoughts really, really seriously. You don't have to take them all serious at all, any of them, none of them, even ideas, the most brilliant ideas, the silliest things, the most insulting things that come into your awareness, you could just watch it float by. You don't have to believe it. But with that, I'll just end with, before I hand it over, is that you are your best support system, your energy system. I loved that Chelsea touched on the chakras. That's some of the first education that I got was, I'm an energetic being. I have these energy points. I am like, I'm a conductor. I'm a transmitter. I am literally this energetic biological computer that is off kilter. So there's nothing wrong with me. I just need to balance myself, and I need to bring my chakras back into balance, and I need to bring my biology back into balance, and I need to bring my thoughts back into balance, and the experience that I want to bring it back into balance. So when it came to fear, I had to really understand that there was nothing wrong with me, and I was not that fear, and I am not any of the thoughts, including the fear thoughts. You can believe any of them, you can entertain any of them. You just have to realize that the thought becomes the emotion. And when you can train yourself, by not necessarily mentally, but noticing which thoughts you do want to create from or build from, or the ones that you want to cancel, Alt, delete, Control, Alt, delete, whatever, Control, Alt, delete, 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 delete. Once you can begin to just differentiate without hyper focusing on any of them, because once you hyper focus on thought or try to fix thought, you start creating from that thought again. So you just have to be aware, and then you can slowly change yourself from the inside out, because we are all internally creating our experiences from the inside out. So it always starts within, but you are your best support system, and balancing your energy system and, the thoughts and the biology, like I said, is just some of the things that you can do. But proper use of fear is one thing I say was the hardest thing for me to get going, but you build momentum, and then eventually, as you build the momentum, it gets easier and easier. And I know I've said on here before that I look forward to things that are scary for me. I look for them. I'm like, oh, this is kind of scary, because I experience it differently. I experience as a proper, I want to know what's on the other side of it. I'm generally curious. I'm excited. I turned that fear into excitement by thinking about it differently. So I'll end with that, and I'll turn it over to Chrissy.
I swear it's almost like the universe set this up perfectly. I'm going to be honest with you, because the thing I'm going to share is actually touching on what you just said. And this was actually my main topic, my main point I wanted to make tonight. And then you just said that. And so I'm going to just follow it. Because we've been talking about fear as like the sense of, we just kind of been sharing about, there's so many different kinds of fear out there, but fear can be a really good thing too. And it's the fear of the unknown, because we are taught to stay in these safe little bubbles. We stay in jobs we don't like. We stay, I'm in a job right now. I'm a nurse. I do like my job. I like what I do. I don't like where I'm at, but it's safe and it's comfortable. You know what I mean? And I am planning to move on, but right now there's a whole big thing. But anyway, we stay in jobs we don't like. We stay in towns we don't like. We stay in relationships that we don't like, because we are scared of the unknown, because things are comfortable. When I first started to do that, when Vicky came to us with this idea, I was excited. I was gung-ho about it. And then it was like a fearful thing. And then it became more fearful when I met these amazing women. And I'm like instantly it was like, what the hell do I have to offer? Like, it was those same like deep rooted beliefs of like, just unworthiness. And what do people like? I don't have degrees in therapy. I don't have certifications. Like, I don't have these things. Thankfully I'm really good. I've gotten really good at pivoting my thoughts. And that's something I hope to talk more about. And that is just basically where you start to have the negative thought and then you pivot it very quickly. Like within 5 to 10 seconds, I was able to tell myself, no, like I have a lot to say and people need to hear what I have to say and it's all going to be fine. But gosh, was I scared. Like I was so scared to go on this journey. I'm so scared to do any of this. I'm so scared to be a coach. I'm so scared to put I'm not scared of this anymore. Like these girls to do this. I'm very comfortable now, but I've gotten used to it. So I think one of the most profound pieces of advice I've got in the last couple of months have been, let the fear be your guide. And so I think when you're moving into the unknown, and sometimes the fear is a good thing. Sometimes that fear is what is telling you it's right. Because so far in this year, every time I've had those fearful thoughts, every time I've had that fear of, because I've done a lot of new things this year, and every time I have the fear, it's almost like it ends up being so amazing. Like I'm having the best time just talking with these amazing women and talking to whoever's watching this and just sharing this information. But I was just so scared, but I didn't let that fear define me. I didn't let that fear stop me from doing it. I have one of my mentors that I even went to before we did this. And I was just like, I'm freaking out. I'm so scared. And he was just like, you just got to push through it. You don't let it define you. You just go for it. And I did. And it was the best decision I ever made. So I think sometimes you just have to, when you have that fear of starting something new, you just have to remember and to let the fear be your guide. Let it guide you. I mean, courage is pushing past the fear, pushing past it and just stepping into the unknown, because there's God, the universe, whatever you believe in, has a far greater plan than we do, honestly. So just follow that and just step into that fear and let it guide you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chelsea.
Love that. So as we're all talking very positively about fear, and I love that it should be embraced and kind of have its own self-discovery journey of why and where and what. So using fear as a tool is a good thing. I think that there's pros and cons to fear, of course. So one thing I always say is when we're actually feeling like maybe boggled down by our fear, or it's causing anxiety and sadness and other things in our life. One thing I've always noticed we're talking about energy work or manifesting emotions, how they can manifest into our life physically a little bit. It's best to acknowledge or embrace them as a messenger or something deep within that we need to understand, right? But we don't want to allow it to come to fruition necessarily in a negative way. So something I always suggest is when we're dealing with fear or even anxiety or sadness, don't make choices that are coming from that emotion, because it's never the right choice, as we would make if we were in a different mindset or a more positive mindset, right? So it's like one of those things where like sometimes when we're in emotions and we're having these experiences and we're like, whatever it may be in a relationship or work or whatever aspect of our life, right? We always feel a pressure to make a choice sometimes, or to do something or take action on it. And so I always say it's good to take the pause and take the moment to embrace it, but don't make any choices or decisions based off of that energy of how you're feeling, because it's never the best one. And it's an energy exchange that ultimately sometimes kind of comes out. And I'm not saying it like it's black and white. So like, if it's a flight or flight desperate type of PTSD or something more extreme than that, I would understand it's different. But when we're thinking of just like the stress of life and our normal day to day, it's best to look at it from a third eye view and not always be living in it all the time, because I think that's a normal thing, as we call it, autopilot, or living in your subconsciousness, or letting your subconsciousness have control. So when we're going through all the emotions in general, we tend to live in them and experience them and project them out into our reality. And that's why I always say, hold up before you start projecting it into your reality a little bit. It's best to try to have something on that. So it's a little like a different perspective on the whole fear thing, but I think it's very important. I don't ever want to make a choice out of fear, because I think the decision out of when I'm more calm and in my main centered self, it will always be a better choice than I would in something like that. And that's been a long going evolution of itself through experiences. But, you know, we're always going to have fear, and we're always going to have all of our emotions. They never go away. So it's, it is our evolution and understanding of the emotions, no matter what that is. And I'm done.
Thank you,
Sorry, I
Chelsea.
always have to announce when I'm done.
I love you so much.
done.
You're so
Cut,
great.
cut. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. She's
I'm
done.
socially awkward, so I have to announce it, because it like leaves people lingering. Like, is she gonna say more?
You're so great. I love it. I just love you. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Next.
No, I guess so. I'm going to go back to what we named today's masterclass, right? And it's the secret behind fear and how it can hold you back. And so I'm going to give you an example of some life experiences where fear did hold me back, and then where fear helped me propel forward. And I'm going to lean on my professional experience. I laugh. Okay, so for those of you watching, the reason I chuckle is because as I say, I can talk about my job and my career all day long. But it's amazing the way, my spiritual growth and my inner transformation just is blending into every aspect of my life. And I mean, that's so genuinely. And the types of friends that I've been able to make, and just like all of this goodness that I'm magnetizing into my life. But I will use an example that's like very grounded and practical, but I'll give you kind of like the transformation I went through professionally too, right? So we talked about growing up shy. So I was so painfully shy that my mom enrolled me in acting classes as a child because she thought I was going to grow up to be a mute. That's how worried.
Really? Oh my God.
Yes.
Really.
It was that bad, right? Like you couldn't get any words out of me, right? So she enrolled me in acting classes just to get me talking. And then, and still to this day, I know that I come across as an extrovert, but I'm not. I'm actually an introvert. I'm an introvert extrovert, where to the
Wow.
point that like, I know, right? Like,
Right.
I laugh again because that's what everyone's like, what are you talking about? No, but the thing is, I'm an extrovert when I'm comfortable with people, and when I feel that safety and I feel that embracing, right, of me and who I truly am. But if you put me in a room, so I'll give you an example, like when I have to travel for work and I have to go down to get dinner, do you know what I do? I literally will put on a podcast or a book. I put headphones into my ears. I sit in the darkest corner of the restaurant and I'm like, please don't look at me because I don't know how to talk to strangers unless I don't know how to start up a conversation with a stranger unless a stranger talks to me, and then I can talk to them all day long. Right. And then I sit and I watch people with envy sitting at the bar, so confident, having a drink, eating, talking to strangers. I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, I want to like crawl out of my skin. I would die if you would sit me at a bar and I had to sit there by myself in a bubble, right? So I'm just trying to say, like, I'm an introvert, extrovert. But anyways, so all my life professionally, I was this shy, quiet girl. And do you know what was happening? The longer I was in, my profession, the longer what I was observing is that people would speak my thoughts, would speak my ideas in meetings. And I would sit there frustrated and fuming at the fact that they're saying all the things that I'm thinking, but then I never had the courage to speak up, to have a voice, because just like Chrissy, you said, oh my God, do I really have something to contribute to this conversation? That was me for the longest time in my career. I was like, oh, well, that idea must be stupid, or why would I say it? Why would I raise my hand? I also would watch those people that would speak my thoughts and ideas in the meetings very quickly progress and get promoted. And again, I would sit and fume and be frustrated. Then I started raising my hand by saying, like, what would it take for me to get promoted? And I had this belief that I had to outwork and outperform everybody in order for me to get a promotion. And guess what? I still wasn't getting the promotion. Why? Because I wasn't really exuding any sense of confidence. I wasn't coming across as somebody who was ready for that leadership role. And so, fear of being myself, fear of appearing dumb, fear of not being enough, fear of not knowing enough. And these are, again, what Laura was talking about. These are just thoughts. And these are just these preconceived beliefs and notions that we have of ourselves, right? That I continue to believe and perpetuate. And that was holding me back in my life. It was holding me back in my career. And all I was doing is, as you guys were saying, feeding into that more and more. And so I was in this cycle of perpetual frustration over knowing that I was worthy of the promotions and yet not getting them. And so my fear of being my true, authentic, smart self at work was completely holding me back. And that lack of confidence, that lack of self-worthiness, that lack of self-worth, true self-worth, feeling like I had something to add and to contribute. And so what happened was I started to go on this inner transformation journey. And I think I shared with you, I started doing these things that were uber uncomfortable that had absolutely nothing to do with work. I did pottery. I failed at it miserably, but I was doing it and I was showing up. I was taking tennis. I was shaking when I would have to hit the ball, but I continued to show up at my classes. I took singing lessons. And the first time I sang, my teacher said to me, I can't hear you. And I said, that's because I want you to hear me. And he was like, you're in a singing class. And I said, I know. He goes, you're whispering. I'm like, I know, because I'm afraid to sing. And he's like, then why are you here? And I'm like, because I'm conquering my fears. So I was doing all this.
That's the greatest thing in the world.
I was doing all of these crazy, and then I would listen to my teenage daughter who was like, Mommy, you totally suck. Why are you even doing this? Like, you're like, the teacher can't even listen to you. You're so horrible. So I had to listen to her abuse as well. But what I'm trying to say is that I started to do the things that I was petrified of doing. And because I was becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable, that was starting to build up the confidence and the courage and the resilience within. And that's when I started to speak up at my job. And I was like, hey, let's talk about that promotion. What do I need to do to get promoted? I see A, B, C, D people getting promoted. What gaps do I still have? And then when I didn't get the promotion at my old job, I got a completely new job. Well, that's a whole story onto itself. The universe literally brought it into my life. But what I'm trying to say is that fear can hold you back. But when you overcome fear in other aspects of your life, it completely transforms you and gives you the courage and the confidence to step into your power in every aspect of your life. So with that, I turn it over to you, Laura.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Vicki.
That was such a great message. I had to say that. That was the most amazing message. Thank you, Vicki.
Yeah. And you know, I can relate to every one of your stories. I think it's super funny that we were all shy. I don't know about Chrissy, but I was that same kid, had my hands in my pockets. I played outside by myself. I didn't want to hang out with anybody. You know, I was just very shy. And I feel like that's like a development of the chakras because of how inside of myself I was and how terrified I was to move my energy anywhere but right here. But there's a couple things I want to mention. First, I love what Angelique said. She said that fear is what helps us grow by taking that step out of our self-created bubbles of safety.
Yeah.
And I love that she said self-created because we create them ourselves. It's not like, I mean, we don't even read a book about it. We just fabricate the stuff, you know, from thoughts or beliefs. And our beliefs are what determines the thoughts we experience. So yeah, I love that she said that because it is something that we get, that's how we get in our own way, right? Like that's how we're always getting in our own way. But I also really love what Chelsea said about not making any important decisions from that space of fight or flight or by the emotion of fear. And that's because, and what I wanted to add to that is that I work with,
Hello, this is a collector call from.
Oops, hold on just a second.
What is going on there?
How am I getting connected again? Hold on, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My phone was ringing and it apparently comes through my computer. So yeah, about the fight or flight is when I work with conscious creators, they try to create from that space as well, from fight or flight or fear. And they're like, oh my gosh, I need to go get a job because I can't run my business because I have to have money and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's this big fear here and they can't even create in their business because they're not making enough money to serve those basic human needs. And so everybody always asks me, you know, should I go find work while I'm building my business? And I said, well, if you need financing for your business, sure. But if you can stay out of fight or flight without it, then spend your time doing something more productive, right? Because you can't create from a space of fear. And if you do, you're probably not going to feel very good about it. I know when I was in a lot of fear, I don't know if any of you did this, but I would start a new journal over and over again. And the stuff that I would put in there was just so painful that I'd get like a quarter through the journal and then I never wanted to see it again, you know? So I'd get a brand new one because I was in a better state of emotion and I'd, you know, fill it up like a quarter of the way and then get it out because I never want to see it again because of the feeling that I had when I was, you know, writing out what I was experiencing. But when it comes to business a little bit, I want to touch upon that because we are, you know, I do help people grow in their businesses. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because I know I've said before that our business it's not who we are, but it's an extension of our spirit. And what we ultimately, most of us, if not every single one of us, I believe all of us want is fulfillment and freedom in life. And that means finding that deepest, most authentic part of who you are and also your highest expression into who you want to be in this lifetime. And when it comes to business, if people are getting that urge to be a soulpreneur or an entrepreneur or start something new, it's because they are a new way maker for, you know, the new earth and creating new job titles and just bringing new energy in through them. And so when people are wondering, you know, whether or not they should start businesses, if you've got the inkling and that's part of your expansion, that's part of who you are. And then facing fears when it comes to that, one of the best things that I heard was that the only thing that exists in the unknown is more of yourself. You're always going to meet more of yourself in that space. And when I really meditated on that, I asked myself, well, what am I so afraid of? Meeting more of me, like, and fast forward a little bit, what I did learn is that I'm not the personality. I'm not that shy little kid, There's so much underneath all of that I really am. And it's the silence beyond all that. It's the silence beyond all the noise. That's who I am, that depth um, of of uh, of the soul, of who we really are underneath everything. And that's what's being expressed through our businesses and through, our creative consciousness. But yeah, I think that's just what I wanted to add, is that, those of us that are inclined to go out on our own and step into our own power and just create from our souls or our spirits and make a business is just the word, of another expression. So yeah, as you go into that, you really are just going to meet more of yourself. And it's an amazing journey. I tell you, it is an amazing journey. And lastly, I'll just add that, because Vicki, you mentioned the worth, how self-worth got in your way. And that's happened to me too. I felt unworthy. I felt not good enough. I felt, there's been many areas of my life where I felt like, why am I not worth as much as somebody else? And I realized that none of us can be worth more or less. We can't be worth more. We can't be worth less. We are all, we are all, like, that's really it. We are the all. So anything that we're putting on top of that, whether it be fear or self-worth or, not good enough thoughts, they're just thoughts on top of our underlying, essence of spirit. So I'll end with that. It's Chrissy's time. Chrissy.
Oh, is it Chrissy's turn? Yeah, that and that kind of reminds me of a little bit of what one of the girls I follow on, and we've talked about her a lot. Her name is Bree. She's a psychic medium, but she's also does a lot of shadow work and a lot of healing, and she's extremely vulnerable, and she shows the downsides as well as the upsides. And she was talking on a video the other day, and she said, that a lot of us with businesses or who are trying to lead collectives, which a lot of us are, a lot of spiritual people are out there. This is a 7 year, it's an awakening year. It's a very spiritual year. So there's a lot of that going on. And she said that a lot of it is you have to start, like, the people that are leading the collectives, a lot of the times they're almost the ones who are beat up the most right now, because they have to go through it so that they can, continue to heal and help heal other people. Because I think, and I'm getting ready to go through some things. I think, just a lot of the stuff I've been reading about myself, it's a lot of woo-woo stuff. Honestly, it's like astrology and psychic stuff that I delve into, but I know it's about to happen. I know we're always healing, and we're always doing, like we talked about earlier, the shadow work, the stuff that lives beneath the surface. And we're always doing those things. And at first, when I realized that it was about, like, the more of that was coming from me, I was like so scared. Like yesterday, I spent half the day probably crying. Like, I was just like, oh, I don't want any more, like, haven't I done enough of this? And then I'm like, no, like, I have to do this. Do what?
Oh, I said you'll get
What was
breaks.
that?
I said you'll get breaks.
Yeah. Like, I have to go through it, because I have to continue to heal. Like, I know there's still shadows there. Like, we all have shadows, and I know that there's still things that I have to go through in order to help lead a collective or help. I've got surf. Like, I always say, like, I always say this, like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm definitely a hell of a lot better than I was last year. You know what I mean? So, like, it's just always about conquering that stuff and just always moving forward and always growing. And so, it takes years. I think it takes a super long journey to get where we need to be and where we want to be. But all we can do is look back and be like, I'm better than I was yesterday. I'm better than I was last year, you know? And especially when you're trying to do a spiritual business or trying to lead a collective, trying to help other people, we have to understand that a lot of us may have a rough time, especially right now, because it's the 7-year. Like a lot of us may go through things that are not comfortable because we have to go through them first so that we can help other people navigate the waters, I guess. So I guess I'm done.
Yeah.
Chelsea's
No,
turn.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I love that.
Yeah, that's very interesting with astrology and stuff. There's definitely a lot going on, and I do feel like as a mass collective, a lot of people have been waking up and going through different layers of healing, and it does kind of come in layers. So like when we think maybe that we're already had sorted something out or a fear out, it comes back again through another experience, but maybe a little deeper. It's just the journey of it. So I guess like speaking of it in a later phase, again, I love fear. I handle it very differently now in my life than I did when I was younger. And you know, where it was debilitating or left me like a deer in the headlights type of situation, now I'm like, okay, I'm afraid. I'll let myself be afraid for a minute and I'll process and kind of like let it run through its course and really get the goodness out of it, and then project the goodness and all of that into the reality or whatever I'm doing, right? So I feel like I'm just kind of repeating like over after a while with the fear topic, but fear is a good thing. And it is a good thing. And ultimately it's a self-discovery too. And it really does bring out all of our vulnerable aspects or weakest links, which is okay to look at, you know, if it's nitty-gritty or easy to deal with. And I do think this year seems to be, I mean, every year has been like the last 5 years has been pretty intense. And I know like the last 100, we've been evolving for a while, as like a human race or a mass collective. But I have to say the last couple of years, it's interesting because for me, I network and talk to a lot of spiritualistic people, business wise, or just as friends. And like, it seems that everyone seems to be on the same pattern right now, a little bit with the whole, you know, so let's say if you were in your 3 to 4 years of awakening, you're going through some deep stuff right now. Like, it's kind of interesting how it hits patterns on the mass collective too. So I'm like, but it's a good thing. And I think so. Like, one thing I always say is, what's the lesson you got from it, or what's the good thing or the diamond in the rough did you get out of all the fear from it once you're towards the end and you have clarity? Because clarity is always the biggest thing. I think fear sometimes is a battle for clarity or understanding sometimes, or wanting to have a conclusion to it. So there's always that in between those two where you're wanting the clarity, you're wanting understanding, you're wanting the diamond, the reward, or some oomph from it. And there's always something there. It's available. We just gotta dig for it. Self-discovery-ish. I'm done.
So cute. She's so cute. She's like, I'm done. I love it. You're so cute. Okay.
I think the one thing that maybe I could add to this conversation is that, at least from my own personal experience, I found fear to be a muscle. And it's like a muscle that you exercise. At first, you know, you run your first half mile and you're like, I'm going to die, right? So you do your first fearful thing and you're like shaking. Like, let's just talk about the very first video, even that we had to record ourselves on YouTube. I can tell you very honestly and very authentically, I literally wrote out the script, posted it, tried to memorize it, but I would get on camera, I'd get tongue-tied. It was just like I had to record it 55 times and it still wouldn't come out right. And then I had to walk through the tunnel of fear of looking ludicrous on my channel and posting the video anyway. The quality was grainy, the maybe message wasn't so good. I looked way too polished for somebody who was like on YouTube, right? So, and we were, but I did it anyways. That's the point, is that I did it anyways, right? I did it despite my fear. And
Mhm.
fear is like that muscle that you continue to exercise. Then you run 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, and you keep doing the things that are harder and harder and harder. Was I afraid about this? When I proposed the idea to you ladies, I didn't know if anybody would say yes, but I was so excited, right? There's like, I think that when fear is also steeped in something that feels uber
Mhm.
exciting, there's kind of that like excitement around it. And you're like, I'm going to do it despite the fear, right? So there's so many things that I've done that are despite the fear, right? And the more that you fail and the more that you get comfortable with failing, I think the more that you continue to exercise that muscle and the more you start to rewire your brain to know that, hey, at the end of this, I was still okay. And one of my favorite quotes around fear is, on the other side of fear is freedom. It's ultimate freedom.
Mhm.
Right? And we do things not because they're easy. We do them because they're hard, and we do them despite being afraid. And the more that you do it, the more that you realize you're gonna be okay. And when I was in that hospital room, just to maybe put a bow on this conversation, when I was in that hospital room, I decided to go into an attitude of gratitude. And I was lying in the ER, and there was a woman behind me, and I was in the hallway. They didn't even have a room for me. I was in the hallway, and there was a woman who was screaming in agony. Something was hurting her. And I laid there and I decided to go into an attitude of gratitude. And I was so grateful that all the things that were going on with me were fixable and addressable. I lost teeth. I guess I could get implants. They came up to me. They were like, hey, you're going to need plastic surgery on your lip. I was like, well, at least there's a plastic surgeon to help me. We found blood in your brain. All right. I'm surrounded by the best neurologists in the world who will help me. Right. And I had hope that I was going to go home in the morning. I had hope of that. Right. And so you walk through the tunnel of fear, and you realize you're still going to be okay. And even after such trauma, I was still okay. And I'm here. And I wouldn't have been here had it not been for that, because it was that experience. And after posting about it on social media, that people have reached out to me and they said, Vicky, you got to give this a voice. And you have to start talking to people about how you're choosing to live through what I call the lens of love, or I know Gabby Bernstein always calls it.
I say the lens of love. Yeah, I love it.
instead of through the lens of fear.
Mhm.
And whenever I'm faced with something that truly scares me, I say, how about I choose to see this through the lens of love instead of through the lens of fear?
Yeah.
And that is available to each and every one of us. It is your choice how you choose to perceive something. It is up to you. Empower yourself. Empower yourself. And know that on the other side of fear is freedom.
It's great. I love what Angelique, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but she just said, courage is being fearful, but doing it anyway. Right on, girlfriend. That is absolutely the truth. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's both courage and confidence. That's how we build our confidence too.
Yeah.
So
yes. So thank you, Angelique. I hope I'm saying your name right, but
oh, you're welcome. Yeah. You're saying it okay.
Oh, good. I want to shift the conversation in a little bit, but what I want to say is no matter what you're going through, if it's a traumatic fear where it's like you're having real trauma, or if it's just a perceived fear, like you're afraid of the expansion or the unknown, or you don't know what's going to happen and it's affecting you in that way, fear always sends you back to yourself. I noticed that, it sent Vicky to gratitude. It sent me to curiosity. It's sending Chrissy to spend time with herself, and I'm sure Chelsea's been sent back to herself by experiencing fear too. So I wanted to add that it does have a really good purpose, because everything that we need is within. It's always going to be within us. There's nothing I think the reason why fear is active is because we're looking outside of us for something that's within us. It's all within us. But I want to shift the conversation a little bit to how it's holding you back, you guys. We're talking about how it's holding you back. I mean, I'll just say it's keeping you stuck. It's holding you back in relationships. It's holding you back from your expansion, from that freedom that Vicky was talking about, for fulfillment, from you living your highest expression, from building your businesses, from friendships, from relationships. I mean, it's a choice that you can make to push through and say, I want to see what's on the other side of all of these things. So I would like, I guess I'll just turn it over to Chrissy and say, how is it holding people back? I mean, I can say, I already said about, in business, how it's really just keeping people from expressing themselves fully. But yeah, what do you think, Chrissy? How else
how is fear holding us back? Is that what you said?
Yes.
How is it holding us back?
Let's let everybody know like what they're missing, because I think it's really important for them to see what they're missing.
It does hold you back. It keeps you completely stuck in the safe patterns that you've grown up with. And sometimes those patterns might be okay. I mean, it might be a good thing. You might like it, but a lot of times those patterns are bad. For me, like I said, I had these toxic relationships. Like, gosh, were they fucking toxic? like they were horrible, you guys. Like narcissists, avoidant attachment people. It was so bad. I was not innocent, don't get me wrong, but it was so bad. And I kept doing it anyway. And I would stay with people because they were safe. It was what I knew. It was the only type of people I had been with my entire life. And so like, it was safety. So my fear of like having like, if I had a guy that treated me good or wanted to, give me, so I was like, I shied away from that. And I'm literally just now like bringing that shadow to light. I'm actually partly in this conversation, honestly, because I would be like, if they tried to give me what I wanted, I shied away from that because I was so uncomfortable because I didn't understand it. All I understood was like guys like being wishy-washy, like one day they're there, the next day they're not. So that was what I understood, so that held me back as far as relationships. And then even like fear in general, if I would have not stepped into my fear, as soon as Vicky proposed this idea to me, let me tell you, I jumped within like 5 seconds. I was like, I'm in. 10 seconds later, I was about to puke. I was like, I can't even, what did I just agree to? Like, what am I doing? But if I wouldn't have stepped into it, I wouldn't be here. So, if I would have let my fear define me, if I would have like, even when I met these women and I found out the things that they had done and Laura, gosh, Laura, can we just say enough about her and all these women, and they have these amazing businesses and they're doing all of these things. And I was like, the first meeting that we had privately, I thought like, I almost puked because I was like, what do I have to offer? Like I'm a nurse. I know it's a good job, whatever, but I'm like, what do I have to offer these people? Like I've never had a business. I've never coached anybody. I'm being completely vulnerable with everyone right now. I've never done this stuff. Like I've never had any of this stuff. And so I was so afraid. And if I would have let it hold me, like I didn't let it hold me back. I could have said, okay, no, I'm too scared. Like I don't have anything to offer. I'm just going to stay here in my little safe bubble and continue doing what I've been doing. But I didn't. I stepped into it. And now here I am, and I am making amazing friends. I can call these ladies my friends at this point, and spreading messages that I think is going to help. And just like Angelique said, courage is being fearful, but doing it anyway. So, I mean, it can hold you back, but we can't let it define us, and it has held me back a lot. But I think I'm at this point, I'm stepping into it, and I know I have some more work to do and I'm embracing it. And I know that no matter what happens, whatever comes my way, I'm ready for it and I can handle it. So that'll
Oh,
turn it
thank
over to
you.
Chelsea. Yeah.
That was well said.
I love that. Going off of some of that, it reminds me of how in fear, growing up, I always had like metaphysical experiences a little bit. And I always had experiences with my higher self, which I know not, maybe not everyone's familiar with the term. So I'm using it though, because it relates to the story. So, as a fourth grader, I saw her, and throughout my teenage years, I saw her through experiences, and then throughout my adult life. But I never felt like I was anywhere close to being her. And, it was things like fear and insecurities that were holding me back. And so like the way fear was holding me back was I wasn't able to embrace being my higher self or even to comprehend what that would even be like. But I knew that she's awesome. And I knew I was going to be awesome someday. It just, how do I cover this weird gap of self-growth in between? And, so when I was taking a switch in business, because I always worked for myself since I was 21 or 22, but it was the fact that I switched careers and did a bunch of things that just all changed at once, and I had kids, and it was like this whole identity crisis. I had a lot of fear. I had a lot of insecurities. I had a vision, but I had a lot of fear and insecurities. And I realized for me, before I really started going through my awakening phases, is I had this vision of what I wanted to be, but I had no idea how to get there. And it was a lot of fear that was holding me back, a lot of insecurities. I keep saying that because it was a lot, right? It embedded my reality so much so that I realized that it was destroying me, and I had to change internally to make the external work, even though I didn't understand how that was like coexist at the time. I just knew I was never going to be the business person I wanted to be, or have a level of happiness I wanted to have, or have a level of whatever expectations in life I wanted, if I had not dug deep into all my fear and insecurities and why I didn't think I was good enough to be that person, right? And, it was a whole journey of self-discovery, and it's been going for about 4 years now. It's still going, but I see a lot more results now, and the fear level is definitely different. But I realized that deep down that I had to make something different. And of course, I was going through depression and dealing with depression for a long period of time at that point. So I was kind of hitting a wall with the depression too, with the fear and insecurity. But it all came down to that I had to really change what was going on inside to make work the outside. And I couldn't have expressed it that poetically back then at the beginning, because, at the beginning, it's confusing. It's weird. We're pushing through the mud. And I always said, I'm pushing through my mud. I'm pushing through my mud. I was pushing through my mud for a long time. I was pushing through the mud. But at the end of the day, I have to say, still, the fear probably is more in the unknown, more than what it is that I'm actually seeing and processing and going through. And it might be the Virgo in me a tad bit, who likes to have a plan and security or whatever I feel that is, right? But it's always something that we internally can change and adjust and have a different perspective on. So at the end of the day, fear is perspective. And it is something that is different, but it demands us to be different and to change or make adjustments or tweak the system. And so for me, I see fear. Well, I already said many times, I always see fear. But so like my current fear now in my life is releasing the things that don't work for me and embracing the unknown, trusting the process, literally. That's something even retrogrades taught me as a theme, is we don't always know what the truth is, but we can trust the process.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's so important, especially, we're always human. We're always going to have emotions. We can't get rid of fear. We can't get rid of all the others either. They come with the group packaging of being human experience. But, it's a good thing. And so that's kind of what I'm struggling with, is the idea to trust the process and not being afraid to trust the process. That's it.
That's beautifully said. Thank you for that, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Oh, good.
That's Vicky.
I'm
So
so sorry.
Vicky, you want to tell us how it's holding people back? It's like you've got the last seat.
The last message here.
Well, I shared a little bit about how fear was holding me back, and I gave you a very personal story. So I don't want to repeat that. The example that I gave. I think I'm going to pivot this a little bit. I know you guys are like, Vicky, stop pivoting all the time, but I'm going to pivot to a little bit where, you know, a very personal story is that I used to be a control freak. Believe it or not, like super control freak in every aspect of my life, professionally, personally, like, and that controlling behavior was coming through in so many different ways, all the way to like how much I would run, how much I would exercise, how much I would eat, how I would perform at work, helicopter parenting my children, helicopter parenting, even down to like how the dishes are washed. I know, like you can't use the sponge because the sponge has germs on it, right? Like it was manifesting in 1,000 different ways. And what's interesting, until this like inner growth, I'd never realized that A, I was controlling, and B, that control was actually a form of fear, right? It's because we're afraid to just surrender to the outcome and allow it to be whatever it ought to be. And, this controlling behavior manifested in so many different ways in my life. And even like with me trying to start this business, on the side, I tried to control the outcomes. I tried to control the timing of when I would be launching my website, when I would be launching, my courses. Like I tried to control the time, the outcome, the what, the when, the how. And I think my biggest lesson has been is just to surrender and to just turn it over. And that has been like my biggest inner transformation, is A, recognizing that I am super controlling and that I used to be a super control freak. B, that there's a higher power that just like makes life happen for you and not to you. And I don't mean surrender as in like you give up and you just don't do anything. It's not a giving up, it's a turning over, right? And so I've kind of stepped into this energy of like, this is what I want. Like, I want this. This excites me, like whatever that this is, right? And because it excites me, that tells me that it's available to me on some quantum level. It already exists. It's already been given to me. I just need to tap into it, right? And so living in a surrendered state has actually given me a lot of inner freedom and peace, right? And so like the old me would have been running marketing campaigns and doing whatever just to get however X number of people to the live and whatever, right? And now I'm just like, hey, if it's one person, awesome. If it's 100 people, awesome. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm in it because A, whoever shows up, I know we're going to help. And B, equally A, right? We're having so much fun doing it and just feeling the joy of it. And that's what matters to me now.
It's why I have that tattoo right there. Let go. It's literally, that's why I have it.
Love that. I love it. So just surrender, turn it over, place awareness on your fears, be aware at least of these fears, and remember, surrender it. And on the other side of all of this lies ultimate freedom, because no matter what, you're still going to be okay. You've been okay 1,000 times and you're going to be okay 1,001 times. And with that, I conclude.
That's well said. Well said.
Yay.
Good job. I love that.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
That's
I
the
think-
talk show talk, right? The talk show, like that's a wrap. Is that what they say?
I got the shot. That would be great for you to use as as a segment, Vicky, if you can, because that was really well said.
That was amazingly well said.
Especially for the control is it's a protection, right? Protection mechanism, which is a fear of like something going wrong. And as parents, we do that. It's like, oh, if we let go, the whole world falls apart, but then it doesn't. And you're like, whoa, how'd that work? So yeah. All right,
Love
you
it.
guys. Well, anything
Okay.
else? I think we're good.
I think we're good.
Thanks for being here, Angelique. We're here every Wednesday, by the way. We're here
Thank
every
you.
Wednesday at 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to attend. Can you send me the link, Laura, to your group again? There was something that happened to my Facebook and all my groups got erased.
Oh no.
No worries.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I
Happens
think I
for
have
a
your email.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, you guys. It was wonderful hearing all of your testimonies and stories. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here. We hope you will come back. It sucks about your groups. That's technology. I have a love-hate relationship.
We've
with
been having that
technology right
conversation today.
Oh, it's no big deal. I just did a move and everything is just being, the whole slate's being wiped clean. So
Yeah.
that's all it is.
Yeah, you guys will notice Angelique, her energy is like so calming. It's like, it feels like a big hug. So I love it when she
Oh,
talks.
Thank you so much, Laura. That's so kind of you.
That's awesome.
I'm an
I don't-
earth sign, so I'm a Taurus.
I'm a Taurus
You're a
too, you
Taurus.
guys.
I'm a
I'm a
Taurus.
Taurus.
I'm-
I'm a
Are
Taurus.
you
That's so funny.
serious? Oh my God.
Your birthday is the 16th, right, Angelique? Is that
Yeah,
right? 16th?
Yeah.
What
Same
are
as my
you,
daughter's.
Laura?
I'm a
What are
Taurus.
you? So
Uh,
I'm an Aries. I have
Wait
a lot
a
of
minute.
fire energy. I need you guys.
Hang on,
I'm
hang
a-
on. My sister is an Aries and she's my best friend. Are we comfortable revealing our birth dates?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
I'm April 4th, 1980. Yeah. So I'm a Aries sun, I'm a Cancer rising, and a Sagittarius moon. So yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of fire. But
Yeah.
fire is so important. It transmutes so much and gets things done. Oftentimes as an earth sign, I need a little fire. So
I used to have too much fire.
I
probably
need some
still do.
earth.
I don't think
So
I have a lot of little fire.
Well, you've got how many earth signs here? So we'll
Yeah.
balance Chrissy out.
you can balance me out because I can get fiery. Like fiery.
So I'm end of April. What is everybody else?
I'm the 29th.
I'm the
April.
11th.
29th.
Of
I'm
April?
the 11th of May.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you're April.
I'm the
29th.
16th of May.
Wow. I'm April 4th. So I'm the 4th of April. So wow, we're all really close.
April 26th. Wait a minute. So we're all April and May?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like the last week or 2 weeks of 2 weeks or
Yeah.
something like that. It's
We're
not even a
literally
whole
right
month.
there.
Nice.
Oh my God. Okay. So we all know what we're doing for our birthday.
Hey,
Girl
we're going
trip.
to Sedona, right? Are we going to Sedona?
Yes, I cannot believe we're all and so Chrissy, I don't dabble in astrology, but astrology, not astronomy. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the word?
Astrology, yeah.
But my sister does, and so she's been educating me on my chart, and I
Yeah.
still don't get it. All I know is that I'm Taurus, but then Aries is the what? Is that the moon? That
Wait, well, so you have a
No,
rising
Scorpio should be the moon for everybody, right? With the 6 months, we should all
Well,
have Scorpio.
It depends on what your birth time was. So if you guys give me your birth time, I have an app. I can tell you. I don't know a lot, but I can tell
No,
you.
you're talking about rising. Moon's always
Rising.
the same across
is
the
it
board.
rising?
rising, and then
So
you
we
have
should
a
all have the
sun.
same moon, but our rising will be different. Like I have a
Yeah.
Virgo rising.
I'm a Sagittarius moon. I'm a Cancer rising, which I think the Cancer balances out my fiery part because I have the empathetic part from the Cancer part. So,
Yeah.
that's crazy. We're all so close.
Yeah, I thought moons were always 6 months apart or across the
Are
the
you a
chart.
Sagittarius? What's your moon?
My moon is Scorpio. So is everyone else a Scorpio? Like
So
the
I'm a
Angelique, do you
Sagittarius
know?
moon.
Maybe
I don't
Angelique
know what
knows.
mine is, but I
Oh.
can tell you your moon sign is how you deal with things emotionally. It's your
Yeah.
second
that would
house.
make sense.
So
If you guys get me your birth time, I have an app that I can actually look up. I can put anybody on there I want, and I can actually look it up. But yeah, I mean, just to give you a little idea of what what
yeah,
your
you can
rising
also
is.
go to astrolabe.com or astrolabe.org and get a
Yes.
free
There's a bunch
birth
of them.
chart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say that so because the opposites for me are my Taurus and Scorpio being the sun and moon, I always say that my Virgo's in the middle being the rising. So my Virgo is always like rolling her eyes at the Scorpio and Taurus complex.
So Chelsea, are you having a hard time? Because there's a lot of astrology in Virgo right now, like with the retrograde. Are you
Yeah,
having
my
a rough time?
retrograde's been insane. My
Yeah.
whole life has been bombed. Anything that's not aligning with me, which I know what's not aligning with me, but the universe has literally bombed the crap out of it. I'm moving
Yeah.
to Delaware in 2 weeks.
Wait, Delaware, really?
Yeah, like my whole life's transforming.
Yeah, it's the retrogrades are hitting you hard right now. Yeah.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
this
I
is
had like 3
interesting.
major things happen, or like just weird out of the normal, back to back to back the last month. It's been really wild.
That's interesting because Angelique just moved too. And I know last time I talked to her, she said that she was like, last time I just heard from both of you guys that you're where you are for now and you didn't really see yourselves leaving soon.
It
And-
happened very randomly.
And then like weeks later, you're both in different places.
Yes, that's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
I'll be gone in
move.
like 10 days from now.
Yeah,
What-
my move
what were
was
you
very
saying?
fast.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was, and I knew it would be. I knew that I would only be told the location. It would not be in the state that I was living in, but I would only be told it at the last minute. And I really was. I paid my rent where I was living, found the new place the next day, got it the very next day, was out of my house in 3 days, my apartment.
Wow.
That just goes to show you how the life will literally
Yeah.
pick us up and move us where we're
So
supposed to be.
Angelique, what state are you in right now? Where are you at?
Right now, I'm in Oregon. I
Okay.
moved from New Mexico.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, so I came here under divine guidance and found out 5 days ago that the individual who upended my life 10 years ago lives 5 blocks from me.
Wow.
And I saw him 3 days ago. And it's interesting that this thing was on fear because I was in New Mexico dealing with the repercussions of that. And when I saw him, I wasn't brought here to harm this person. I was brought here for a different reason. I was really guided to come here. But I felt no fear when I saw him. And I was, I felt nothing. I felt no fear, no. So every issue has been dealt with, that there's no energetic attachment in that way to that individual anymore, or the things that he caused. Also, if it wasn't for what he did 10 years ago, I would not be where I am today. So
Yeah.
the universe has shown me such beautiful and amazing things after I took that leap of faith and got in the car, loaded my little kitty up, and just off we drove for like 1,300 miles to a place I'd never been before, but I knew I had to come here. And everything has been amazing and perfect. And
Oh.
the people are so wonderful. And I I'm actually so curious as to see what the universe is going to have play out with that, little spice added to the gumbo that's being created. So,
Wow.
so we'll
That's so
see.
exciting. So exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm nothing but grateful. I mean, you know, I'm even grateful for that. I'm actually very grateful for that because I was brought here to see something spectacular, and we'll see what it is. So
Well, keep us posted.
That's
now,
so
now you
amazing.
gotta let us know.
what's been amazing is everything I've seen on like all my video streams and stuff has been on vengeance and justice, vengeance and justice. And I have no vengeance in any cell in my body. I don't. I've moved beyond that. So when I see him, and that will happen, it's a small town I live in.
Mhm.
It won't be me that has fear because I was already, the universe showed me that he was here, showed me what he looked like. So I'll, see what he looks like if I run into him in public. He will be the one with fear. And he will have tremendous fear. And that will be actually sad for me to see because he has no reason to fear me. None. So it's
Wow.
a beautiful and amazing thing. And only something that could truly be orchestrated by the divine, because Laura knows I could have moved anywhere in this country and was ready to. Just had to be told where to move and got moved here. So,
Well, you're closer to me
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it does take courage to share things when we're live streaming this stuff, and especially with me, obviously, Laura, but you don't know us. And so it just takes a lot of courage for you to even come on and talk to us and share a little bit about yourself. And so I just commend you for that. And I thank you for that. That was
oh, thank you,
beautiful.
Chrissy.
And thank you, Angelique, for kind of being a testimony for a testament to like, I'm really starting to like, I meant it very genuinely when I said, to go from being a control freak to just like being able to turn things over. And as you're speaking, all that's going through me is, yep, life just happens for you and not to you.
Oh, it
And
absolutely does.
it's like
Yeah.
becoming a new motto in life, it just
Yeah.
happens for you. And I love the way that this is unfolding for you,
Oh, it's beautiful. It's purely divine, and I'm so grateful and blessed to be witness to it, and to have the divine do this for me. I'm very grateful right now.
I
Yay.
love that. Oh my God, Angelique, I love having you here. This is
I
so
know. It's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you for speaking up.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's
Yeah,
what
we could talk forever.
It's what we're here for. We want to continue. We love each other, us panelists up here. We love talking to each other, but we really want to talk to other people too. Like we want to people to join. So yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
tell your friends. Tell your
Yeah.
friends and your friends' friends.
And come back next Wednesday. Every Wednesday we're here and we're going to be sharing out. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
All right, you guys. Well, I think I'm gonna have to make a phone call now, so I think we gotta jump off. But thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Love, love, love. And Angelique, so
Love.
great to see you again. We'll see you next time.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
See
Vicky.
you guys next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good
Yep,
night.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.